Hello everybody, this is Sarahscopic and you're watching Traffic Musings. Hello! It's been so long since I've been in this car. Actually, no it hasn't. Well, yes it has, but I'll explain that in a second. It's been a long time since I've been recording, that's for sure. But we're gonna be doing these things weekly again, because they're fun. You know? So yeah, 101 and to 100 more, I guess. Yikes, that'd be weird. Okay, what are we gonna talk about today? Yeah, about what I've been doing since I've been gone. So I figured I would share with you guys the story of how my poor car, well, I didn't have my poor car for a while, 2 weeks, during most of winter break. Yeah, that was a great time. I didn't get a chance to record in the rental I was using during that time, but I don't think I was missing out too much, I'm gonna be honest with you. What happened was, it was a horrible, stupid thing what happened actually. But what happened was, I was driving to Cairo, and it was the first snowfall of the year, and it was early in the morning, and salt trucks had not been out yet because it was on a Saturday. And I was just driving my normal way, it was just powdered snow, and I didn't really think much of it because it seemed to be driving fine, but part of the way that I had to drive in my neighborhood, I didn't even get out of my neighborhood, that's how sad this was. There's this part where it kind of is a little bit of a hill, and so it goes down, and then it's a very sharp turn right or left. There's no middle road, you have to either go right or left. And I started trying to brake while I was going down the hill. I was not able to brake, and so I tried to turn, and I was not turning. And next thing I know, I get landed into a ditch, because this happened to be in a part of the neighborhood where there's ditches on either side of the road. No sidewalks, just ditches. So I landed in a ditch, and there just happened to be a sapling tree in the way of my back bumper, and so my back bumper went crack! And yeah. So that wasn't fun at all. What was kind of sad, kind of funny, kind of sad, was, so when this all happened, I didn't even get out of my neighborhood, and I'm just sitting in my car, and I actually didn't even know that there was something wrong with my back bumper. All I know is, I'm in a ditch. I need to get out of a ditch. Oh crap, I'm not gonna be able to go to Cairo. So I think the first thing I did was call my chiropractor, and I said, not gonna be there today, in a ditch, sorry. And then the next thing I did was try to call my mom. She didn't pick up the phone. And then the last thing I did is I happened to have OnStar because I'm pretty lucky like that. So then I called OnStar, and of course during this time my mom doesn't realize that something is wrong. But what's funny, and I didn't get to the funny part. The funny part kind of was, so I'm in my car during this whole thing because it's cold outside, and I don't see a reason to get out of my car because I didn't realize it got damaged at this point. All I knew is I landed in a ditch. And all of a sudden, I hear sirens, and there's a police car. And I look up, and I found out that some neighbors of mine in that area happened to see my crash, but they didn't see me get out of the car. And so they were worried that something was wrong with me. And so, like good neighbors, they called the police. And so the police came, and to the police's credit, he actually waited for a bit with me there, especially since the tow truck took about over an hour to get, because I was not the only one that got into an accident that day. Lots of people did. So it took a long time for the tow truck to come, and at this point my mother found out, and of course she was like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine, I'm sorry about the car. And she's like, I don't care about the car, I just want to make sure you're okay, and all that kind of thing, crying, hugging. And of course my father's looking at the car being like, that's a lot of damage to the car. Car was in the shop for 2 weeks, and meanwhile I had a rental. The problem was, I'm very, 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 very grateful for the rental. And you guys may have remembered a long time ago when I also got into an accident, and also, well, not really an accident. That was, my car got a dent because of an issue. It wasn't actually an accident, but I got a big dent, and so I had to get fixed. And so I had to borrow also had to get a rental for the meanwhile of that whole thing. And that rental just happened to be the same car. And if you guys may have remembered, it was the same make and model. So that was easy. Unfortunately, you know, they don't always have those available, so I got a different car. And this car was interesting, and by interesting I mean was not a newer model, and so there were certain things I've realized I have heavily taken for granted with this car. Let me just tell you a couple of them. Number one thing is I have one of those newfangled screens here that has a back camera, and so, because my car that I had before this, I got into a lot of rear-ending, like, misfits, like I would hit things, and I have not ever since I got that rear view camera. It is a lifesaver. And unfortunately, the car I rented did not have that. So that was one thing that was terrifying. But the other thing it doesn't have, that it didn't have, that I didn't even think about, was a rear window defroster. You get front window defroster, of course, but I guess the back window defroster is kind of a new thing or something, because this car did not have that. And that really sucked. So in the morning, when you have a rear end defroster, rear window defroster, it's like one of the first things that gets defrosted more quickly than your front. I don't know why, but it always, for me at least, gets defrosted really fast. And the problem is that since it didn't have that, early in the morning, I would come to the issue where my window was still heavily icy, and I didn't have a back camera, so I couldn't really leave right away, but I also had to be careful when I was leaving, because it wasn't safe. The other little funny irritation, and this was very irritating indeed, was the windshield way it worked. The windshield wipers, the method to use it, were backwards. So if you're in a car, kind of try to imagine this. You have your windshield wipers, I think, for me it's on my right side, and if you flick it one way, it just does the windshield wipers once, like if you're using it quick. And if you do it the other way and click it, that's when you get the consistent windshield wiper and increase in speed. On my car, the down is how you get it to do it once, and the up is when you do the different speeds. I just did it just now. On this rental car, it was the opposite. So you had to press up to do it once and then go down to do all the differences. And man, it took me so long to get used to that. And then when I got my car back, it took me a couple of days to get used to the other way. It was so frustrating. It's such a minor thing that's just a difference I didn't even think about. So that was enjoyable. The other fun little thing that I didn't think about that this car has, excuse me for yawning, but the rental did not have was, I have a speedometer, but I am very lazy and don't like to read numbers like an analog clock. So I have a middle function set where it gives me just a digital speedometer. So right now it's showing that I'm going 31 miles per hour because traffic is slow. And the car, though, the rental car, of course, doesn't have that. And so I had to start trying to make sure I was actually reading my speedometer. And when I got this car back, I kept doing that. And I was like, wait, I don't need to do that anymore. I actually can read my car. I actually can read it more easily this time. So yeah. One thing that was kind of interesting and kind of like a throwback that I kind of miss. So this car that I use currently, it has a jack where you can connect your phone to it and access stuff through your phone. And so very often, it's one of the reasons why you don't really hear Gabby anymore, because first of all, by the time you guys, when I'm recording these, I am going down 75 and I could do that with my eyes closed. I shouldn't, but I could. So I don't really need a GPS at this point. But I also now use my Google Maps because I can connect my phone to it. And the main reason I use Google Maps is because A, it's faster, but B, it gives me more updates as far as traffic. And so for certain times when I go home, a different way, simply because traffic is really bad at this one part and stuff like that. Well, because I have my phone connected, I listen to Pandora usually when I'm in my car. Sometimes I listen to radio, but often I'll listen to my Pandora stations. And I have an iPod that is meant for my car that I used to have before. But this new car didn't have a fancy thing like that. So what I had to do is I would have my phone up where it is right now. Because usually the phone comes up in the screen, but I had to have my phone up here like I was, recording, and use that way to read the map. But I would use, I still had some jacks free, and so because I couldn't access on here, I plugged in my iPod again and started playing my old music, and it was really weird because I have not really been listening, especially even at my Pandora stations. I haven't listened to like older music that I used to listen all the time when I was little, because I've got music on there from since middle school. And so it was really weird because I was like, oh my gosh, these are all throwback songs. I know all these songs. Oh, the memories. So that was pretty entertaining. So yeah, that's how I got into an accident with a tree and snow, and had to use a rental car, and had a great appreciation for my car. I missed you so much. I'm so happy I got it back. Not to mention that the rental car was much less stable than my other car, so it was kind of, I don't know if it's ironic, but like, I got in an accident with this car, and then I had to use a less stable rental car for about 2 weeks. I was terrified I was gonna crash that thing, because every little bump would, like, the suspension or whatever was not as tight and not as good, and so every little, like, bump, it was like, it would set my wheels aflux, and so it was kind of strange. But we're good now in a more stable car, safer car, and hopefully I don't damage it before the lease is up. So yeah. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope something amazing happens to you. Without further ado, I hope to see you all in the next episode. Bye-bye!